What if I told you that Maxton Hall is not the fictional, glamorous teen fantasy you think it is? What if the elite school, the scandals, the family pressure, and even Ruby and James themselves were all inspired by real people, real places, and real problems happening right now in Europe's wealthiest private schools? And what if the series changed some of the most emotional, heartbreaking, and shocking storylines from the original books so completely that the show you watched is actually a different version of Maxton Hall altogether? Today, we are uncovering everything. The real-world inspirations Mona Caston used to create Ruby Bell and James Beaufort, the true events that shaped the most dramatic scenes in the story, and the massive book-to-series differences Netflix never mentioned. And trust me, the final reveal changes everything you thought you knew about Season 2. Maxton Hall exploded across the world, not just because it's a romance series, but because it feels strangely real. The pressure, the secrets, the broken families, the impossible expectations, it all feels too specific to be fiction. And that's because it isn't entirely fiction. Mona Caston didn't dream up Maxton Hall from scratch. She pulled from her own life, her own experiences, and the elite world she witnessed as a teenager growing up in Germany. She studied real scholarship programs, real elite academies, real scandals, and real family-controlled business dynasties. And then she wrapped them into a love story that feels intimate and personal, yet global and relatable. But Netflix didn't just adapt the books. They reinvented them. Some characters are softer. Some relationships are rewritten, some plot lines are drastically altered, and some scenes that break readers' hearts never made it into the show at all. So in this video, we're going deep into the world behind the world, the truth behind Maxton Hall, the inspirations behind Ruby and James, and the book differences that completely reshape how Season 2 should be understood. Maxton Hall feels like the perfect elite school, intimidatingly beautiful, academically suffocating, and socially vicious. But the design of the school, the atmosphere, and even the culture aren't fictional. Mona Caston was inspired by a very real elite boarding school near Hamburg, a place known for its grand architecture, old libraries, and rigid academic expectations. Photos of the real location show the same towering wooden staircases, the same Gothic-style hallways, and the same overwhelming feeling of generations of wealth pressing down on new students. This environment shaped Ruby's experiences. The sense of being an outsider, the feeling of eyes watching her every move, and the unspoken rule that the rich get away with everything. Ruby's discomfort, her anxiety, and her determination to survive academically are all pulled from what real scholarship students face in elite institutions across Europe. Most fans don't know this part, but Ruby Bell is not entirely fictional. In multiple interviews, Mona Caston admitted that Ruby is based on her younger self, a quiet, introverted girl with huge academic dreams but limited opportunities. Mona modeled Ruby's perfectionism, her obsessive need to plan her future, and her fear of failing from her own personality. More importantly, Ruby's financial struggles and outsider perspective come directly from Mona's own life, where she often found herself surrounded by wealthier students who never had to worry about tuition or scholarships. Ruby is essentially Mona's ideal version of herself, the version who stands up for her values, protects her sister, and refuses to let anyone walk over her, even if it puts her in dangerous situations. While Ruby is inspired by someone real, James is inspired by a type of person Mona knew, rich heirs who were raised not to dream, but to inherit. In Germany's wealthy families, especially those running old money businesses, the eldest son is practically groomed from childhood to become the next CEO. Everything is predetermined: the school he attends, the sports he plays, the degree he earns, and the life he must live. James Beaufort is the fictional representation of these heirs, charismatic on the outside, trapped on the inside. The pressure James faces from his father mirrors real stories from elite families where expectations destroy individuality. James's rebellion, his anger, and his emotional distance come from Mona observing these boys who were raised to be perfect successors but never allowed to be themselves. The moment that changes Ruby's life, when she accidentally witnesses a compromising moment between a teacher and student, Feels like a made-for-TV dramatic twist. But it was inspired by a real scandal Mona learned about in university, where a professor was caught getting too close to a student. That scandal shook the campus, dominated whispers, and caused real consequences for everyone involved. Mona adapted it into Maxton Hall because scandals in elite institutions spread like wildfire, often ruining people not because of what they did, but because of who was watching. Ruby becomes the unwilling witness, just like students in real schools who ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time. Except Ruby's situation is far more dangerous, because at Maxton Hall, powerful families protect their own at any cost. James's family storyline, being forced into a future he doesn't want, is not just fiction. It reflects real cases in European business dynasties where children have zero freedom to choose their lives. These heirs face crushing expectations. They are trained to become leaders of multi-million or even multi-billion-dollar companies. Their dreams are irrelevant. The Beaufort family is basically a mix of several German dynasties Mona studied, known for controlling not just their businesses, but their children's identities, relationships, and even emotions. When you see James breaking down, shutting people out, or sabotaging his happiness, that behavior isn't just character drama, it's a direct reflection of how real heirs react to being trapped in predetermined futures. Book versus show. The biggest differences. Difference 1. Ruby and James fall in love. Much slower in the books. The series accelerates their romance heavily. In the books, Ruby resists James for a long time. Her internal conflict is deep, emotional, and painful. She doesn't trust him. She doesn't understand him. And she constantly questions whether someone like him could ever fit into her world. The show compresses this journey because visual storytelling needs faster progression, but book readers know their love story is far more complicated. Difference 2. James is darker, colder, and more broken in the books. Netflix softened James. Book James is intense, emotionally damaged, and often struggles with anger and self-hatred. His trauma is more graphic. His breakdowns are more violent, and his internal thoughts reveal how deeply he fears becoming his father. The show keeps him magnetic and appealing, but the books expose the raw pain underneath. Difference 3. Ember and Ruby's family are much more detailed in the books. The show gives Ruby's family little screen time, but in the books, her sister Ember gets full emotional arcs, romantic struggles, and major turning points. Ruby's home life is a central pillar of the story. Her motivation, her fear, her strength all come from protecting her family. The series cuts much of this depth to focus on Ruby and James. Difference 4. Alistair and Kenzie's relationship is completely rewritten. Their dynamic is darker and more chaotic in the books. Netflix changed their storyline drastically, removing certain controversial elements and reshaping their relationship to be more modern and emotionally stable. Difference 5. The Season 2 ending is significantly more brutal in the books. If you thought Season 2 broke your heart, the book ending is far more devastating. The emotional trauma James experiences is described in painful detail, and Ruby's perspective on that trauma is more heartbreaking than anything shown on screen. Netflix toned down some scenes to make the show palatable, but the books go deep into the psychological damage. Difference 6. Lydia Beaufort's transformation is larger in the books. Her rebellion, her emotional awakening, and her conflict with her father are much stronger in the novels. The show hints at her development, but book readers know Lydia becomes one of the most powerful characters. Difference 7. Chloe and Ruby's friendship is way more important in the books. The series shows it casually, but the books treat their friendship as a core emotional support system. Chloe is vital to Ruby's survival, emotionally and academically. And that is the real story behind Maxton Hall. The real people, the real scandals, and the real inspirations that shaped the books, plus the massive changes the show made when adapting the story. These truths completely change how we understand Ruby, James, and the world they live in. If you want a part 2 on deeper book differences, hidden symbolism, and secret details Netflix didn't include, just let me know. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe to Hype Explained so you never miss the stories behind the stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.